Oh, this one's being live streamed too. Let's go. What is up, everybody? As we're letting people trickle in. Thank you. It looks like everyone knows how to use the Zoom emojis. This is a comfortable platform for everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Jared. I'm co-founder of RevGenius. I'm not going to take too much time, but I am hype. This is our third leadership roundtable today. Tomorrow is the big dance, so to speak. You'll be able to see people like Anise kick off Revolt, the main stage, virtual stage with a keynote. And we're here this year renamed as Revolt from RevCon because we're revolting. Like in the last year, we've hit the biggest inflection point, certainly since starting RevGenius, maybe in my career with AI, right? And what we're seeing is more people doing the same things and not really standing out and like noise becoming deafening. So like having these leadership conversations to understand how to cut through it, how to, build for 2026 and beyond and AI proof your TV. That's not even a thing. I don't there's a cliche coming out of my mouth. But that's killer. And we have such incredible partners like Attention and Anise here who are absolutely crushing it with their tools. And we're joined by Nathan as well of Copy AI, recently acquired by Fullcast. We'll see how that title changes. As we jump in, some quick rules of the road. We're using a Zoom meeting here, which is great because we want to encourage engagement, and this setup does that. The negative part is it's also really easy to chime in, right? And so we ask that you show courtesy, mute yourself if you're not speaking, raise your hand if you want to speak. We want to call on everybody. And if somebody else is speaking, chat the whole time. So quick icebreakers. We're going to be talking about AI agents for revenue and RevOps. Seems like this is a massive topic, and there's so many ways to address it. But let's do some quick LinkedIn. Drop your links in the comments. You'll probably get 20 to 30 new connections from this. If you aren't connected already, we want this community to extend past this awesome roundtable and past the Slack group, throughout. So do that. And then I have some quick icebreaker questions that I'm pretty excited to ask. And and as one, it's funny. The first one, if I asked this 2 years ago, I would think 50% of the room would say yes, but I'm convinced 100%. How many people in here are using some form of AI to record your Zooms? I mean, I could tell right now with who we're rejecting here, but I'm just put a yes or a no in the chat. If I see a no, nice. Yes, yes, yes. It's funny. I'll go on calls with happy attention user here, but sometimes like we were using Adio for a bit, and they had a call recorder, so that was coming in too. Like all these random recorders come in, so that doesn't seem to be the problem getting the recordings anymore. And the notes are great, and you all probably have your favorite. The second note, though, is going to be a little more interesting. How many of you are taking that recording and building agentic workflows with it in any way?
Mm.
Right? Yes or no? If it's a yes, right, what you're doing specifically, like what's that one workflow? Automated follow-up email, sure. But like what else are you doing with enablement that's really driving revenue? So I'll throw it in there. As you write in, I'm going to introduce Anise and Nathan. This is going to be an exciting one. Please be active. We're excited to have you. Welcome, guys.
Sweet. Thanks, Jared. Hey, Nathan. Hi, everyone. Um, So I'm looking into the answers, and I see that there are a lot more yeses to call recordings than we see for agents and workflows out of these call recordings, right? So great to see all of this. By the way, I'm going to drop my LinkedIn in there. So if you haven't heard about us, we automate a lot of work out of your customer interactions. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Attention. We're about a 4-year-old company. I'm a second-time founder, and I built this company with a mission, which is to give every revenue org superhuman clarity, turning every customer interactions into insights and every insight into action. So that being said, let's start sharing our screen here, and we'll go over, we'll start pretty broad about some of the possibilities. This is not going to be necessarily about attention. This is going to be about the world of possibles out of what you can do with revenue intelligence. So yeah, there are a few convergence points here that we should be thinking about in 2025. The first one is that, every company in the world, every board, every leadership wants to use AI, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that the amount of data on which companies are sitting on is growing exponentially, and that amount of data stays underutilized, right? You have to think about all your call recordings, all your customer emails, all of your Slack messages with the clients, all these client interactions, but also all sorts of data are getting underutilized. And so today, the biggest unlock, and we're getting to the third point, is that AI is allowing you to orchestrate that better and make sense of all of that data. The third convergence point here today is that basically all of these leaderships expect teams to do a lot more with less, right? So when you think about RevOps initially, the goal for RevOps has been to unify sales, marketing, and customer success. And so, and all sorts of other functions. So as these tech stacks have been growing, it's been harder and harder to make sense of all the data. And so this is basically how AI is able to help today. Nathan, do you have anything to add?
It's a weird take. I was just gonna say, I know I've heard a lot of people worried about AI, but this is like a RevOps dream. It really can just connect everyone in such a cool way. I was talking earlier, like at least on our end, go to market used to be kind of a teams sport. So marketing's doing their own thing in a silo, sales is doing their own customer success. But really, with the right workflows and these conversations, it's like back to a team sport as one kind of unified motion. And it was in 2024 was the first time I've ever worked with a sales team that I actually had an enjoyable experience as a marketer. It was finally like we weren't taskmasters anymore. We were working together. It was really neat.
I'm I'm seeing the de-siloing naturally happen, but I'm also seeing RevOps get responsibility to learn something like new and massive that they're not used to. And the last call we were on, just to give some color, 1985, what was the big invention? It was Excel. um, and that changed ops and how everything ran. And like this is like the next big thing. And it's teams are running around firefighting so much, leaders, right? Like that's like a top thing. Now you got to learn AI, Nathan.
Well, it's okay, yes. And what I've been seeing people say consistently is like, I don't have the 8 hours this week to sit down that I know will save me 80 hours next week. I just don't have that time because I have to keep up with my
Yeah,
current workflow and become an AI expert. I do think the good news is it's just like the technology is almost outpacing strategy at this point, the updates. And so the technology is almost getting easier and easier to use. And so I think 2026 is kind of be explosive.
I agree.
Um, we're getting into that next slide right here. So there's been a shift, and just before all of you guys got into the room, Nathan and I were talking about the difference between workflows and agents, which is an exciting one. But initially, you have your CRMs, which are your repositories of data, right? Even think about your traditional call recorders, whereas they're Gong or Chorus or Clary or any of those. They're repositories of call data, right? You have your calls, you can go in, you can watch them, you can ask a question or two, you can go and forecast on the platform. But it gets pretty tricky to start automating data out of these repositories, right? You can, if
You
you're
understand that this
technical,
is
sorry. Yeah, and so you can start automate so the data, from let's say your CRM to other places using workflow tools like N10 or Zapier or Clay or a lot of these, but or also, I mean, there's so many workflow and orchestration platforms, but um the big unlock with AI here is that you can take a lot of unstructured data and restructure it however you want, right? Um, Building a workflow requires to be A, creative and B, very technical. And then the last step here is the AI agents, right? Which is a lot less about knowing how to build all these different trees and flows and whatnot, but more about just connecting your tools and knowing how to prompt, right? Um, I think the big difference here is that the workflows are, in a way, a lot more reliable if you know how to build them. They will get you the data however you want it, whenever you want it. It just takes a lot of time to create these. Whereas the AI agents will give you a lot more leverage. You can create an AI agent within a minute or two, but then um, having these being reliable is getting harder and harder. And so a lot of these next gen companies are trying to figure out how we can build AI agents with the reliability of a workflow. Nathan, if you want to jump in and
Oh, I
share your
love that. No, I really love that. And part of it is I working with different teams on workflow building, because my passion is certainly workflows. They are just so powerful when you get them right. But I was really spoiled to start at a company where we had a small team. And as we worked with larger teams, one of the problems with workflows is you're really trying to scale an entire process. And that process might have 4 or 5 people in it. So let's say we're trying to write a blog post with a workflow based on a keyword, go out and do research. Well, now you're not just doing like one person's role. You got to get the keyword strategist. You got to get whoever writes the content brief. You got to get the copywriter who ends up writing the post, and then the editor. And you have to bake all of that into it if you want to scale it at the same quality. Whereas AI agents that I've seen being built, it's like, no, I do this role in this task, so I'm going to train you to do this role in this task, but it's more like really efficient at doing the task of a person really well. Whereas workflows, you're kind of trying to scale out a whole team's process, and it can be hard, especially if Lisa Cole at 2X gave a really good talk at this at the Gartner at the last Gartner event, where she was finding a lot of CMOs didn't fully have a good grasp on how their teams were creating things from start to finish. And if you don't have that process locked down, it is very difficult to get a workflow. But when you do, like to your point here, and I love this table because this is spot on, that scale and efficiency is just out of control once you can crack that. But I do think that you're right. AI agents, they're so much more approachable for most people because you don't need to go codify a whole team's process. It's like, no, I do this task. I can teach you how I would do it, and now go off and go do it. But then you got that reliability issue too, where it's struggling to keep up in that regard. So
Yeah, 100%. I've seen cases, right? Let's say you want to create an AI agent that will ping, a call prep agent that will ping everyone at the company with their meetings of the day and what prep them on each of these meetings, right? The workflow, if you have a proper loop set up, will message every single person at the company in the right way. The AI agent will probably miss half of the people, right? And that's because it's less reliable. So going to the next slide, right? I think and we think here that every single company should operate based on the voice of their customer, right? Um, it doesn't matter necessarily what you think. What really matters is what your market thinks, what your buyers think, what your customers are thinking and what they're saying out loud to you. And this is what should be guiding your strategy, right? Obviously, you can try to think outside the box, but you should always know what your buyers are saying and think kind of like a layer or two of abstractions above that, right? And so, especially at any large company today, if you're making any key decision, you need to deeply understand what your buyers are saying. So leveraging these conversations, and until now it's been really hard, right? When you think about every revenue team, they would go into their call recording platform and rewatch calls. But the reality is impossible to rewatch every single one of these calls, and you're going to miss a ton of the data. And so these conversations are the source of truth, and the 80/20 comes from your call recordings. Yes, you'll have emails, yes, you'll have Slack messages, but your call recordings will be the 80/20. And the interesting part is that they're relatively hard to handle because there's a ton of text that might not necessarily be um, useful to you, but you still need to work with it, and you still need to restructure it into intelligence and turn that intelligence into actions.
And as I was just going to say, this is inappropriate to say so publicly. I could just hug you right now for this slide because I don't see enough people looking at this as the source of truth in the way that they want to. And like, look, as a marketer, I've only met a handful of marketers who can really take the time to sit down and listen to enough of the sales calls or the customer calls to get a global sense. What I happened in the past, to me at least, was I could listen to maybe one a day because I had so many other things to do. And maybe I'm going to over index on the wrong problem because maybe the majority of the calls are actually about something else. And I caught an exception on some of those calls. And so now I'm starting to tailor my strategy in marketing based on these handful of calls, when really you can now aggregate all of those calls together and get a really holistic idea of what is our audience struggling with? How are they talking about those problems to inform our copywriting a little bit better? How are they talking about those solutions? And then like, how are they finding solutions that we can then take to our other customers? It's just so cool that we could do that at a big level now.
Yeah, 100%. I remember this happened to us about, 9 or 10 months ago where a client made a comment on our website, on our homepage, right? And our sales rep would not necessarily share that comment with us because all he cares about is his quota and his deals and that's it, right? But automatically, boom, an AI agent dropped that comment into our marketing channel, and marketing knew exactly how to handle that. So there are a ton of unknown unknowns that you might not know about, where AI agents will be capturing these things in real time whenever.
Can you unpack that example exactly? Like what types of things were you looking for
So yeah,
in the call? Because like typically that call would have just been shelved, so to speak, or workflowed a certain way.
yeah. So the way we build it is pretty simple, right? Whenever a call ends, what are the most interesting things related to what a marketing team would want to know are, and then these things get pushed into a Slack channel. As simple as that, right? And so you can have a true or false tree where, if there's nothing interesting, it gets actually not sent to your Slack channel. But in most cases, you will get something interesting because the voice of the customer will be relatively interesting. And so you capture these things, right? There's another, I would say, more broad example that we're seeing with companies that have multiple sales teams, right? Let's say a sales team that focuses on one product versus another sales team that focuses on another product. Ups, all these upsell opportunities come from these conversations where, let's say, a prospect will mention a pain point or a customer will mention a pain point that might be more relevant to another team automatically that team gets pinged with a co-sell opportunity, right? That's an example. Another example is, sales reps never care about partnerships, right? But partnerships teams always have to go in and listen to these sales conversations to try to find gold. There's two things. You can either set up a pretty simple workflow or agent that will ping the partnership team whenever something interesting or relevant to a partnership is discussed, or you can go back and what you can see on the screen here, you can ask your, we call it here the super agent. Attention will go back into your repository of calls and give you all of the instances where an interesting partnership is out there. And interesting, you can define, I'm seeing something in the chat, which is how is interesting defined? You get to define interesting, my friend, with natural words.
Yeah, this is cool. Like it doesn't sound like a lot of people are doing this, but I'm curious to open it up and hear your creativity. Like just because you don't have it built doesn't mean we can't listen. Like I'm just curious, what would you build, folks in here? Like if you could build anything from, I see a list of fathoms, that's a common one, attention, whatever you're using.
So I'll go in here, by the way, and say that for us, the way we view the world is that your call recordings are a commodity that is getting underutilized. And so we would not define ourselves really as a call recording platform, but more of a autonomous revenue operations platform. We have a ton of different AI agents that will automate the entire manual work that your teams are currently doing today out of your call repositories. So yeah, I see that Sean just mentioned, making sure that spice is captured in the sales cycle prior to a proposal or business case. This is great. We'll be talking about this shortly.
I'll share what I'm really excited about building this week, actually, that I'm kind of pumped on. And it's just to please the inner copywriter in me. So when I started, it was copywriting, and I'm just fascinated by it. I used to build like word bubbles by scraping basically community forums, Reddit, things like that. And like, how are people describing their problems? And can we use their language back to them, depending on whoever we're talking about? And so just having the ability to figure out the role of the person we're speaking with so we can identify the audience person. And then when we have all similar roles, like we're talking to this segment, taking all of those conversations and really figuring out how are they describing, not like really at the word level, how are they describing these problems to inform our copywriting when we send out emails, when we build landing pages, when we are trying to reach to this person, can we do that better in their own voice? And now we can take 100 calls, scrape it, and have that information very accurately in minutes, whereas that used to be unfathomably tedious, and it was kind of a wish list thing that people knew they should do, but no one could actually pull off because they were so busy doing other things. And I'm just so excited to be able to scrape that, not only about the problems, but then obviously the solutions and how can we write the messaging a lot better and adapt the way we speak to be more pleasing to the audience or to resonate more with the audience. I just think it's the coolest thing.
This is a great segue into this next slide, right? Let's think about, a centralized logic, as you said it, with distributed execution, right? And so all the teams benefit from the voice of the customer differently. If we were to go into a layer of abstraction above, I would say that the voice of the customer is a multi-department asset that is extremely rich and extremely helpful for different use cases. And so, for sales, obviously, you're capturing all sorts of buyer intents and assessing the health of a deal from these interactions. Whereas for marketing, it's how do you use this customer language into creating content that will help you convert and attract and retain, right? Business development, you, especially in a world where there's going to be so much innovation, you're going to have to release new products all the time. Everyone is releasing AI features of their own product. And so your business development teams will need to have new language. They'll need to iterate so much faster on these evolutions and know what sticks best with their buyers, right? Partnerships, as I was saying earlier, detecting all sorts of signals, and then for customer success, flagging customer health, churn risks, retention possibilities, and upsell possibilities.
If I could just talk really quickly about how at Copy we were trying to align sales and marketing really, really well. One of the things and this was 8 years ago, I was writing bottom of the funnel content, how to do X with our product. And I would have to write like 8 to 9 of those posts a week, and it was just miserable. But now I realized, like, okay, if we're on a call with a customer and they have a problem, our whoever's helping them is just talking through the solution with our product. So we could get a really cool doc that outlines, like a bottom of the funnel doc that's going to help explain how we solve a specific problem with art. But then that can feed back into our knowledge base. So sure, it helps marketing. We can make that content faster. We can help people get it. But then because it's in the knowledge base, sales can access that same doc for their future customers. And now we have this marketing has this workflow to build bottom of the funnel content that's still connected to the sales. So they don't have to come ask me ever. I called this workflow enable yourself, although I had some more expletive language in it because they kept bugging me like, oh, where do I find this? We just built it for them now so they can go search within the database. And so now AI is taking those customer calls, making a cool how-to tutorial. If that problem comes up again in sales, they can just go find it. And now we're all working from that same source of truth, like Anna had showed on the last slide. And it really is that source of truth. It's so cool.
100%. There's another really interesting thing that connects sales and marketing through these AI agents, which is capturing from your close won deals, especially when they come inbound, what was the compelling event or critical event that caused them to come to you, right? And in many cases, your reps might not think about it twice, but then your marketing team can go in and or growth team and see what were the reasons why people came to you inbound in the first place. And it's generally something that changed at the company level. And you can now create that into a new signal, right? You can create that signal for outbound purposes. You can say whenever, uh, teams hire 3 enablement people at the same time, it probably means that they have to create a ton of content for enablement. And so we're going to be able to help them there. That's just as an example. Or if they're hiring some finance analysts, I mean, hiring is the easiest one, but every now and then, they could share something about their technographics, their firmographics, and all of these things. You'll just keep layering them on top of your plays to do outbound. So, um, we're a lot of people are talking about agents, right? The way agents really work is really simple. They perceive, they reason, and they act, right? Data capture, insights, and then orchestration, action. And so you can get whatever you want to go to get reprocessed and then sent wherever you need it. Whether it's your CRM, whether it's your Slack, whether it's an email report or any other repository. And so this is how AI agents just simply operate. So let's go into some examples that we hear a lot. Also feel free to share whatever use cases you have for agents in chat. I see that Sean here shared a great example around creating business case proposals, right? When you think about, and this is not on the slide here, but this is an excellent example. Reps are extremely lazy to write business cases. They will more often than not go to marketing and ask for a business case or enablement, or whoever at the company will try to do this. But the reality is the content should just come out of these customer interactions, and you should be able to create a business case proposal just within a prompt and within a few minutes out of your customer conversations. Even more important than that, you can automate using AI agents the creation of a business case whenever your deal hits a certain stage in your CRM. Let's go into three challenges that we're gonna be talking about today, right? The first one, very simple, we want to extract actionable insights from customer conversations for product development, right? If you think about every company in the world today, or B2B company, you'll have a lot of sales reps say, I need this one feature to win a deal. We need this new features to be able to win more deals and close more deals. But nothing is really anchored in actual data, right? And so every product team will ask you, just give me the data, and then we'll go out and build it if it really helps. Product teams need to align with actual priorities, and more importantly, right, you might have clients on the SMB segments asking you for a specific feature, while your enterprise ones will ask you for other features. Maybe your CEO or your CPO will actually want to prioritize enterprise features because that's where your business is going. Well, if you're able to get your revenue intelligence tool to dissect the different types of personas that you're selling to and tell you that the one thing that your enterprise clients care about the most is this thing, then that will change things considerably for your product team, and that will drive your product alignment or more than 50% through the voice of the customer. Anyone wants to add anything here? All right, I'll go to the next one. This is more for RevOps. We want to prevent deals from slipping through cracks. Pretty simple. You have your spiced or MEDPIC criteria and frameworks to inspect deals. Pretty easy. You will get pinged whenever there are some things that are happening within your pipeline, and we'll dig into that in a bit. And then the last one is I want to improve forecast accuracy and yield qualification. Same thing. Use your frameworks to actually audit things. So if we go into the forecast piece, right? Internally, and that's kind of like what a lot of our clients have done over here at Attention, is they create their own frameworks to inspect their deals. It can be Spice, it could be MEDPIC, but you can add whatever you want to and just score your deals. And then over time, you can start seeing which deals are going well and which deals aren't. But more importantly, as you close a deal, sometimes you will miss certain things, and very often, and more often than not, you will realize that these deals are most likely not the ones that are going to retain the longest and that are going to renew, right? This is something that a lot of teams are starting to realize, especially today, as they're adopting Spice as a framework, for example. The impact piece is something that will heavily be correlated with the ability, with how much your client will renew or not. So it's pretty clear how you can start scoring your deals using AI and actually using specific prompts to say, okay, I want you to score every single deal based on how much out of these conversations we're seeing out of impact or out of the pain and so on. Let's go through this second example here, which is I want to get a Slack notification whenever something is said out of a deal, right? Yeah, Sean is saying something great here, which is implications and cost of inaction not being captured is a big part of sell deals. Absolutely. So this example here will show you just real-time Slack pings that will analyze your deals, that will tell you basically, anything that you need to know across the voice of the customer in real time. And so you can basically just go in the agent, say, hey, I want to whenever a call ends or whenever a deal progresses, you select your trigger, right? Which is whenever this happens, and you ask in plain net language, this is the sort of information that I want to get sent to in a Slack channel or sent directly, right? The last piece is let's go over the way you reach out to clients, right? And so this is something that I was talking about earlier, which is how you connect close won information or close loss information to actually improve your top of funnel, right? This is as obvious as it sounds, everyone is getting bombarded with cold emails today, right? And these cold emails are extremely personalized but not relevant. And so you need to understand exactly what was said. For example, last time you closed you closed lost a deal, let's say 9 months ago, and you're re-engaging with that prospect, you need to send something relevant to them. You need to say, hey, 9 months ago when we lost that deal and we spoke with Mike and Ben in RevOps, that your biggest pain was lack of clarity on your sales. Is this still something that you're struggling with today? There's a big chance that they are. And at that point, you might be re-engaging them with something that is extremely relevant coming from your first party data rather than whatever is very broad and generic that is on their LinkedIn profiles that all of your competitors are already using. Nathan, I see you nodding here.
I'm so sick of those faux personalized emails. Like, Nathan, I see, and it's just the role, and like I know where I work. I don't need to know where you know, but like real personalization goes a level deeper. And I'll be honest, I really think that companies have a responsibility now to go that level deeper because we have the technology to do it, and we have the ability to look at these conversations, and we have the ability to really understand who we're talking to, what their problems are. And then if whatever system we're working with, we've loaded our solutions very clearly, connecting the dots is not terribly difficult anymore. It's actually really efficient with AI agents or workflows. And I do think that companies have a responsibility now to go deeper. And I think that we're going to see over the next 12 months, the winners of the market are going to be the ones that take the time to build those systems in place to really do that and help the humans in the loop connect better with the other humans. If that makes sense.
Not to mention, you could take the wording that you see that describes the problem, and that's going to hit harder when you're using their words. And you're going to also be able to give suggestions before even meeting with the person that like you just got off a call with $1 billion person, like out of the box thing that like isn't on a LinkedIn post, this hack, like, hey, here's how one of our truthfully, here's how one of our customers is hacking our product. Because I noticed that you have this setup. Boom. Wow. That's the personal people want. How
Yeah.
can we
And
hack the product based on, hey, so yeah.
And not just one, it's the person that they deserve. Like we owe it to our customers and prospects to give them that level. If we're really talking about using AI to help build human relationships, which I think that we should be, that's really the level that it needs to be under the hood so that when we're talking, we can actually have a conversation that doesn't start with, so tell me where you work and what your problems are. No, we know all that stuff. Let's just get into it together and we'll see how we can help you. I just think that's really great potential. And again, I think that we have a responsibility to give that to prospects and customers.
100%. That's a very good point. I think more and more today, buyers expect you to be AI ready as a seller. And so to have as much context as possible and just to come in prepared, right? Um, and more importantly, when it's an outbound sales process, um, you need to come in prepared and know what trees you need to shake and come in with kind of a point of view that you can try to that you can try to dig into, right? And if not, that's okay, but your buyer will respect that you came in prepared. So a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed, right? When I talk to a lot of buyers today, there are so many tools out there that overpromise, underdeliver, right? When you think about the whole MIT study that says that over 90% of AI implementations fail. Um, that's true, right? You need to start small, figure out what real life small problem you want to fix. Start with a small pilot, right? Never go out and buy a full deployment for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people right away, and don't lock yourself into years and years of contracts. Any vendor that is out there that is, I would say at the minimum honest, but also that knows that they're going to drive value for you, should be comfortable and will want to do a pilot with a smaller team because they will not want to mess up any implementation at scale. It will be a nightmare for them to mess up any implementation at scale. And so you should always start with a sub team. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make sure you get the right you have the right champions in your org that will be on top of this. Nothing is really plug and play. That's the reality. A lot of vendors will tell you that they're plug and play. Trust me, everyone has a data hygiene problem. Um, People will need to understand what your data schemas look like, how your go-to-market stack is structured, how your CRM is structured. And so that will take time. That will take a week or two, maybe all the way up to a month sometimes if things are complex. And you have to be okay with that. And from there, once you have solid bases with your data hygiene, just things can actually scale. But if you start scaling the wrong things, garbage in, garbage out, things will not go well. And you'll just iterate quickly, right? This is a new world, and you have to be okay with the fact that the first few weeks will take some time to get things done properly. Just before all of you joined, Nathan and I were talking about this, where when you onboard a large client, there will be so many edge cases, so many team specificities, so many security enterprise details to think about. Let's say, y'all, a very simple example, right? You want an agent that detects all sorts of information, right? And that sends it to a Slack channel. What if your CEO had a call with a board? Your CEO generally records their calls, but this one time they recorded it, and you don't want that information to end in a Slack channel, right? You have to make sure that the AI agent is customized for that. So yeah, there are millions of edge cases, and you should be expecting that things are not necessarily perfect when you start, but you'll iterate very quickly, and within a few weeks, you will see your ROI. Nathan, I see you smiling.
Oh, I'm smiling so much. I love this. I just love it. And especially just having like that patience and then lowering the expectations of like the first couple runs. I remember having conversations with a few folks on a team in 2024, and it was like none of these outputs in the small pilot projects, we're not tattooing it on anybody's body. This is all modifiable in our little test project. It's okay if it fails because we kind of have to fail forward as we're learning any new skill. Like any skill you've ever learned, you don't start as an expert. Like you have to go forward. And one thing I was just going to say too, and this is for more like the leaders of teams on the call, in implementations when we're working with people, the ones that have been most successful were the leaders that gave like 2 to 3 hours to their team early in the week and said, hey, go play. No expectations. We're not going to make publishable anything. We're not going to do, but just go play. And at the end of the week, let's talk about what you learned and let's figure out what worked for you and what didn't. And it took the pressure off of like, go build this and be an expert at it this week, or your job's on the chopping block. And by taking some of that pressure off, it allowed teams to experiment more freely. And I really do believe that especially with this like change management process, we're redefining how work gets done with AI to support humans. There is going to be failures, and people have to feel comfortable playing, or maybe experimenting is a better word. They have to feel comfortable doing that if you really want them to move faster. Otherwise, everyone's going to be so on their heels, and they will look for reasons why it won't work because they're terrified if it's going to replace them. And it doesn't have to be that. So that would just be my encouragement to any team leads, really building a culture of experimentation in those pilot projects of like, have fun, but let's report back and see what worked, what didn't, what we learned, and now how can we expand this a little bit?
100%. I love that. Um, I think, yeah, that's it with the presentation. We should open it to a Q&A. I see some messages in chat. I also know that we did quite a few polls, but yeah, the floor is open. Who wants to start?
Let's bring Sean on. He's had a lot of valuable contributions here in weaving AI in his day to day. Sean, what's
Yeah,
up?
well, I have nothing more to contribute at this point. I just put in chat. I'm really loving this conversation. It's everything that I think about, particularly as I know Copy just got you guys got purchased by Fullcast. I've been a big fan of Epsta and Fullcast for a while, and I just think about how can we use AI to replicate high performer behaviors because there's this, they've talked about it in the latest report. There's a 10.8x delta between high performers and everyone else, meaning 13% of the sales team is carrying 80% of the revenue, 76% of reps missed their quotas last year, and 78 the year before. And I just can't get my head around how we haven't used AI to address this as the delta has kind of spread. And I think that it's systematizing or creating forced accountability to the motions that you're seeing with your high performers so that the rest of your team takes on the physique of a high performer if the system actually forced it. And I think there's just a lot of opportunities for it, starting with things like capturing spice before you get to a proposal, which according to the last episode report, it's like gives you a 324 to 374% higher chance of winning. Like why isn't that happening every time? And then, creating more um, pipeline from referrals, which to me just again no brainer, but not happening. And someone should have figured this out by now, how to replicate referrals proactively because everyone, I've been to 1,000, probably not that many, but a lot of sales kickoff meetings where we run around the room and talk about getting referrals and then nothing happens. And it just seems like to me that AI could look at my customer base, find a shining moment like an NPS score of 10 or higher or 9 or higher, and look at my target accounts and figure out who within those accounts, you know, is connected and start to ghostwrite the like to get the conversation started. Like, I just feel like there's so many things that we could be doing that align to how buyers are buying that help us to facilitate buying processes and stop selling. And um, this excites me just hearing what you're talking about. So yeah.
I'll
Do you
just
have anything going? Do you automate an outbound email when somebody that's a prospect is mentioned on the call saying, "Hey, just heard about you yesterday"?
Yeah. But yeah, I think there are a lot of signals, and I think it's the grouping of these signals together and compounding them, kind of we talking about in the last session, and then using flows and agents to kind of facilitate is this is all exciting to me. So I'm glad we're having a conversation.
I had three things really quickly, Sean. First of all, do you have a podcast? Because your voice is unreal good for a podcast. That was awesome. I feel like you have the perfect podcast voice. Okay. Second of all, and I'm not being
Is
facetious.
Fullcast launching one?
I was going to say, really,
You looking
I
for
would love to
voices?
listen. Second, it reminded me, we had a top sales performer. Her name was Jennifer Junkin. If you find her on LinkedIn, she was amazing. She was consistently just doing better than everyone else. So we looked at what is she doing? What is she adding to Salesforce? And then can we kind of codify that so that all of our reps, even if they're just onboarding, have that as the base in their Salesforce data? And we were able to repeat that to a large extent. So even somebody who's just coming in, at least they have the same information. And like she said, I no longer have to write the book every time. I just get to read it before the call. And I loved that because it was exactly what we were trying to go for. And so big shout out to Jen Junkin if you can connect with her. The other question I was going to ask is, it is exciting, and I hadn't even thought about that referral. Like, get the net. Like, who do we know? Who knows? I was wondering, just as the group, and I don't want to turn this into my question to the group, but is the hardest part about all this just figuring out where to start? because I feel like there's so many different avenues you can go. And it's almost like when you can do everything, you end up doing nothing because what do you do? Like paralysis by analysis kind of thing. I just don't know if that's the general vibe, if we're still there. Or...
Yeah, I really like that.
I think it is.
I think, yeah, it's really interesting. I think generally you start with one thing. Just start with one single thing and find success, and you'll see it gets pretty addictive where you want to do more and more, but only once you've tasted success. If it fails, then you will not want to trust AI or any of these agentic tools quite a bit, right? I'll share an example. This is not within revenue, but more within engineering. Our engineering team was using AI, cursor and so on, really, really early, and it would introduce bugs back in the day, and so they were scarred by it, and so they would not trust cursor again for quite a bit until the LMs got way better. And the biggest issue here is just that they tried it way too early. And so you do need to try to find success pretty early on before you'll want to try to replicate that. Now, the other thing too is that a lot of these platforms, thanks, Sean. A lot of these platforms now, they give you some templates, they give you some agents that you can directly try to plug and play, but you will need to kind of iterate a little bit as well before you find success. So I do expect that things will get easier and easier over time to get implemented. A lot of companies are trying to get there. But for now, I still think we're in this situation where things are probably easier than a year ago, but they're still harder than what they will be in a few months from now.
And this is, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna just say that like we're at a time now where people are required to become AI native, or at least that's what they're saying. And that means in general, for 9 out of 10 people in revenue, maybe 10 out of 10 that aren't in ops, it makes it more technical, right? And in some way, shape, or form. And I think in 2026, AI is going to be required to be more human native.
I like
And I
that.
think and I think at that point, like right now, the first movers in AI have a massive advantage. And when I say first movers, in like being able to use AI, because they're in that 20%, they're in the 2%, to be honest. Like I don't even think it's 80/20, really. Like they're at the top of the top. But as soon as it becomes easier, then the thinkers are and the architects and the true savants that might not have gotten into the tooling so much or had the resources to hire people to put things in play are going to have their day.
Yeah, I really like what you said there. I think um, human beings don't know how to prompt very well or talk to machines very well. And so they will most likely send things that, think about all the times you sent something to ChatGPT and it misunderstood what you were saying, gave you the wrong answer, and then you had to clarify, right? And then over time, ChatGPT has been getting better and better to deeply understand what you meant and do it exactly the way you meant it. And when it comes to code or revenue operations, it's really the same where you'll ask for something. Today, maybe the AI agent will not do it exactly as you wanted it to be, but then companies like ours were working around the clock to make sure that we're understanding exactly what you meant, and we're giving you exactly what you're looking. So, the AI being more human native, as you said, Jared.
Uh, Anis, are you going to help Anis and Connor? Are you going to help anybody build their first workflows in here?
Yeah.
Even if it's not in the attention product, give some like teasers. Like, how could folks get in touch with you?
Yeah, add me on LinkedIn or, reach out, go to our website, attention.com. We have a pretty cool domain name. I think you should all check out our website. But yeah, overall, just feel free to reach out. Our team are all experts in doing this. And we'll definitely take great care of you.
I have one quick workflow. I'm going to bother one of Anis's teams, not Anis directly, to set up. And I'm pretty hype about it. Thank you for the inspiration. All right,
I'm gonna start
everybody.
covering real quick how you can
Yeah.
create a workflow in a second if you want. We have 5 minutes left. Straight in attention. Yeah, I'll share my screen. I was promising to not give you guys a demo, but can you see my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, really simple here. You have a lot of agents, agent templates, right? For all sorts of use cases and functions and so on. If you go to the cross-sell radar, right, whenever there's a cross-sell opportunity from a call, let's use this template. It will actually give you all of the prompting for you. You decide whatever tools you want to connect it with, and it will create the agent for you. That's it. That's all you have to do. You connect your Salesforce, you connect your Slack, you tell which channel you want the signal to be sent to, and that's it. And it will start sending whenever a call ends, a note about a cross-selling opportunity to a team. That took me less than a minute.
I need to hit hard R refresh on my instance. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Everybody, you see some polls. We want to learn about how we can continue leveling up. Thank you, attention. Thank you, Nathan. You guys have been incredible. This was like an awesome learning experience. At the end, stay on for a minute. We have a QR code that's going to come up where we're constantly getting additional feedback. We're going to be creating, like, it's funny, voice of the community reports. We'll have to load our recordings into attention and do that. It's not on yeah, so definitely put that in. And how funny is that, Anise? How coincidental. Like everything that we're doing is trying to get the voice of you all in because we realize how important that is. And yeah, what a proper ending.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming.
Will do.
And
Thank you.
tomorrow at 11:15 a.m. Anise is going to speak as the first speaker at Revolt, following me bumbling on my words introduction, I'm sure. It's going to be fun.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.